Back in masks, what the CDC's new guidelines mean for vulnerable people, even those who are vaccinated, and the ethics of whether we should get booster vaccines even if we can. Boulder wrestles with whether providing services for people who are homeless is actually a magnet.
Do you think this will encourage people experiencing homelessness to come to Boulder by taking it away?
That's certainly a concern.
Colorado's Olympians aren't sticking around after they compete. They're leaving Japan as soon as possible. And Coloradans priced out of the housing market but refusing to be pushed out of this state. They're living the van life and allowing us to come along on Next at Night. You did everything right. You followed the science on COVID. You got the shot, and you're being put back into masks to protect the people who couldn't be bothered to protect themselves through vaccination. Yes, so doctors also say this is about protecting vulnerable people who want to get the shot and can't get it, or people who got the shot and are still at elevated risk. Here's Anusha Roy.
Once you get cancer, your perspective on life changes.
Sandy Boyer has lived in lockdown since the pandemic started. After getting her vaccine, she enrolled in a study for the immunocompromised, and that's when she realized the protection she thought she had.
That wasn't necessarily the case.
Then she hoped if more people got their shots, her life would have a chance to open up.
I certainly would have played it safe for the foreseeable future, but I also expected to be able to go out shopping, by myself.
She's a part of a group of patients with cancer, lupus, transplants who don't always have as much of a robust reaction to the vaccine and are closely watching the Delta variant and new mask guidance. This isn't the only group doctors are now suggesting should either continue or revisit their COVID precautions.
The CDC's guidance was really confusing for a lot of folks.
There are kids who are not eligible for their shots, and doctors say the science behind understanding the small percentage of breakthrough cases is changing.
That's why they're starting now to change the guidance that says, look, even if you're vaccinated, you should get tested if you're symptomatic. You should also get tested if you've been exposed. And that's really different for a lot of people. I know a lot of folks were kind of like, wait, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand that. And the reason is that now we're starting to see more data to say, look, that virus can live in people's noses. They actually can be potentially contagious as well.
Does it vary for someone who's asymptomatic versus symptomatic for a breakthrough case?
We don't know yet. I think this is where it's really hard.
Intuitively more likely that if you have symptoms, you're more likely to spread it to others.
It's wearing a mask. It's still, you still get to do all the things you want to do. You still get to see the people that you want to see. We just have to be careful again.
For Next at Night, I'm Anusha Roy.
Public health experts say the fundamentals of fighting COVID remain the same. The masks have some value. Vaccines have far more value. So they say continuing to try and convince people to get vaccinated is the path away from masks. Colorado's $1 million vaccine sweepstakes had a pretty dubious impact on vaccine rates. The state's current giveaway plan, $100 gift cards, seems to be having much more of an effect, increasing traffic at the state's vaccine sites by about 40%. 8 days into the gift card giveaways, the state says it's handed out about 4,500 of the 10,000 gift cards. The state tried to target areas where communities of color had lower vaccination rates, and they said today that more than half of the vaccine recipients in the giveaway program are from those communities. Today, as the federal government pushed every state to adopt some kind of $100 incentive, governor's office told me they're open to re-upping this gift card program when they give out all 10,000. Boulder, progressive Boulder, had a homeless policy designed to discourage people from moving there to live on the streets. It requires people to live in Boulder for 6 months before they can set foot in a shelter. Tonight, a change in policy, coincidentally timed with the threat of a civil rights lawsuit. Katie Eastman explains.
Boulder is a place people love to live in, but the American Civil Liberties Union of Colorado says not everyone is welcome there.
Boulder is just so proud of being recognized as, the #1 place to call home in America. And I want them to recognize that their unhoused residents have every right to call Boulder home too.
Annie Kurtz, an attorney with the ACLU, says new unhoused neighbors don't have that right because Boulder requires people to have been there for 6 months before they can access a shelter during the summer. If someone tries to access one before their 6 months, they are blocked from a shelter referral for 2 years.
They can't lawfully stay outside because of the camping ban. So there is no lawful way to resettle in Boulder as an unhoused person. under the current structure.
A letter from Kurtz sent Thursday demands Boulder change their policy. She calls it unconstitutional.
It's a policy that penalizes people for trying to get into the shelter.
Boulder's director of Housing and Human Services says the policy is legal, but it's ending anyway on August 9th.
What we've realized is that we actually do have capacity for additional individuals to stay there. We very rarely have met the capacity of the shelter.
Kurt Fernhaber says Homeless Solutions for Boulder County decided privately to reverse this requirement back in June and are only publicly announcing it now because of the ACLU letter.
So what it will look like going forward is that anyone will have access to the shelter and the shelter services for up to 90 days.
The city is concerned without the policy that was created to stop unhoused people from coming, that more people experiencing homelessness will move in.
And I talked to Annie Kurtz with the ACLU after our interview to tell her Boulder has plans to end the residency requirement. She was pleased but confused why they waited to say anything about it until now. Boulder says come August, people that were banned from using shelters because they violated that requirement will have access again. Kyle?
It's so interesting, Katie, to talk about the homeless issues and the responses in cities other than Denver. Denver gets a lot of attention, a lot of criticism for its homeless sweeps in particular.
Yeah, and Boulder City Council just voted last week to have an even stricter policy. All tents will be banned and officials can remove them at a moment's notice on any public property.
In Boulder. Katie Eastman, thank you. Olympians, thanks for playing. Now go home. That is the message to Olympic athletes after they compete in Tokyo. Pandemic guidelines have the athletes leaving Japan just days after they compete, which means that Olympians are already arriving back home in Colorado. Welcome home, William Shaner and Lucas Kozaninski. William earned a gold medal in the 10-meter air rifle. Lucas took silver in mixed team 10-meter air rifle. A few hours ago, they arrived back in Colorado Springs with their hardware to a waiting surprise party.
This is a big deal. I know for him and for me. So like our whole journey has been really rooted here with like the NTC, with USA Shooting, with all of these people, and so it's good. It's really good.
That's the best. USA Shooting grabbed 5 medals at the games, making it one of their most successful in history. Nation of Liberia would settle for just 1 medal, very first for that impoverished country. So each night on Next this week, we've been inviting you to join us on the Liberian hype train. Root for another country that sports the red, white, and blue. They're competing against the odds. Just even the cost of getting to these games is a struggle. All Hail Liberia Hail is the anthem. It's jaunty. What a moment it would be to hear it played if they struck gold with their first medal. It would be from one of their 3 athletes, 3 sprinters. So Liberia tenaciously gets a team to the Summer Olympics time after time, despite the expense that poses for one of the poorest countries in the world. Economics certainly factors into Olympic success. There is research being done on that at the University of Denver.
One of the drivers of Olympic medal counts is GDP per capita, and GDP is gross domestic product, or roughly the size of an economy. GDP per capita, the size of an economy per an individual, has been shown to correlate with performance in the Olympics.
And that is one more reason why we're behind Liberia. More money, more medals. So normally, when we're talking money, more zeros is good. Not, though, with the medals. Fingers crossed that Liberia can change that. Their track stars compete starting Saturday. Not confident how many of us would be able to find Liberia on a map, which is okay, because we have learned recently that finding the line between Denver and Aurora can be tricky. A Next viewer questioned the Walmart in Aurora why they were charging Denver's new 10-cent per bag fee. And after they asked and we asked, the world's largest retailer quietly stopped. Tough to tell what's genuine confusion versus opportunism with the bag fee charges. The Walmart on Hamden and Dayton has a Denver mailing address, but it's in the city of Aurora. Next viewers Dave and Richard let us know that store in Aurora was charging the 10-cent Denver bag fee. We asked Walmart what was up with that. They didn't answer us, but they stopped charging the fee. Took down the signs announcing they were doing it. We reached out to Walmart headquarters in Arkansas. That's not it. There you go. We reached out to them, and they said that customers could haul back to the store with their receipts if they wanted their 10 cents per bag back. Here's the interesting part. 6 cents from every bag sold in Denver goes to the city to fund Denver's reusable bag giveaways. We asked Walmart if it was going to cut a check now to the city of Denver. Silence from Walmart on that question. Coming up here, some of you have questions about getting a COVID booster. Medical community doesn't have advice, so let's look at the ethics of it. And we're going to meet some Coloradans who cannot afford housing but refuse to leave our state. They're living life on the road. Next. The CDC's lack of direction on vaccine boosters, a third shot, is leading to a moral dilemma for some Next viewers. We heard from a slew of you, Richard, Noah, Steve, Dave, all asking the same question. You got the J&J vaccine. Studies have shown that may not be as effective against the Delta variant, and you're wondering if you should try to go out and get a booster shot of Pfizer or Moderna. The CDC is not recommending that. But let's look at it from an ethical angle. Is it wrong to try and snag a booster? Because we know Colorado's got a surplus, but yet we also know overseas there are a lot of people who want their first shots.
So if we assume that it could be beneficial to receive sort of a booster, a second dose, or one of the mRNA doses, and that the vaccine would go to waste, otherwise it would be morally acceptable for individuals, and you could argue that it's actually the morally responsible thing to do.
Kostelecki with the Colorado Healthcare Ethics Forum said, really do need to bear in mind the international vaccine shortage when you look at this. Colorado's leaders have said that they're open to sending our excess vaccines abroad before they expire. Clock's ticking on that. Couple weeks away. They have not offered a detailed plan.
Another warm day, hazy with temperatures in the lower 90s. Storm track is still to the north, but we're starting to see a shift, changes by the weekend. Temperature today of 94, 90 in Grand Junction, even 80s up in the high country. But by the weekend, with the arrival of a front, the potential for temperatures in the 70s and 80s and maybe some heavy rain from slow-moving storms. We're tracking that activity across the Continental Divide and higher terrain areas tonight. Flash flood watch areas will be reinstated on Friday. Partly cloudy, isolated showers tonight, lows in the mid-60s. Tomorrow's high 93. About a 30% chance of rain from storms, but check out the weekend. Cooler with a good chance of rain both Saturday and Sunday afternoon.
You know those people who get more excited about everything than you get about anything? Scotty Gange from our sports department is one of those people. Scotty Gange is very excited about the Olympics.
Come on. How can you not be? It's the greatest athletes in the world, and right here, this is how closely I've been watching. Our superstar of today, a golden Suni, 18-year-old U.S. gymnast Suni Lee. She's the 5th consecutive American to win gold in the all-around Olympic final. Dynasty! Dynasty! Hey, pretty cool. She's also the first ever Asian American to win the event. And you know what? Something about her just seems like she perfectly fits right on gold. All right, we're all going to learn a cool, hip new term, so say it with me today. Hang up and hang out. If you didn't say it, probably means you're on your phone. It means get off your phone, because these Olympics, now they don't have any fans. These are all workers and volunteers. But imagine the remarkable privilege it would be to see any part of these games live, like in real life. Families can't even go. And homeboy right here is on his phone. Hang up and hang out, guy. This is the Tokyo Olympics, and he's checking his Twitter feed. I don't know. I'm Scotty Gange. I'm excited about the Olympics. And this guy apparently isn't.
Scotty's very excited. There's no shame in not knowing every great getaway in Colorado. At least that's what I'm telling myself, because I was not familiar with the spot that's visited by our team out rediscovering Colorado during these Olympic weeks. Our Mark Salinger and photojournalist Ann Herbst visited a place that preserves the culture of the ancestral Puebloan people, and it is not Mesa Verde National Park. Mark and Ann are camping for the night near Lathrop State Park in Walsenburg. Another late night for you guys. How are you?
Hey, Kyle.
Hey there. How's it going, Kyle? Yeah, I'd been there a few years before, and as we were passing by, I thought that Mark should see it because it's really awesome.
And it was absolutely well worth it. I had never heard of it, and absolutely never been there. But Chimney Rock National Monument is absolutely worth going to. And I want to show you some pictures that we took earlier today. Those two big rocks, every 18.6 years, the moon rises in between them, and it's called the Northern Major Lunar Standstill. Now, that entire area, all those buildings that are now in ruins that you see there, that was built more than 1,000 years ago. And it's pretty amazing to think that that was built so long ago on top of a mountain. You can go up, visit it. It's a short hike just up the mountain there and see those amazing views and everything that's there to offer. I would absolutely recommend it to you. Like you said, Kyle, we're camping near Walsenburg tonight, right?
Yeah, Lathrop State Park.
And tomorrow we'll bring you a pretty cool story about a town in Colorado with the cleanest name around. And it has some roots in some of the challenges that we're experiencing today.
You guys certainly get around. Chimney Rock National Monument in Archuleta County off US 160 west of Pagosa. Ann and Mark, have a great night. Travel safe.
We were seeing the prices rise quicker than we could make decisions to catch up.
Housing prices forced them to make a choice.
The van is where it all started, and we couldn't have done it without this particular van.
Move out of Colorado or live here on the move. Coloradans choosing van life. Next. Housing prices have some Coloradans reconsidering whether home requires a house. Some make this choice because they feel like they have no other option. 9 News reporter Nelson Garcia talked to people feeling the squeeze, people who chose a path on the fine line between homelessness and living rent-free.
The road to finding their own land and placing roots in the ground.
First fence post of the ranch
started 3 years ago.
Here, just hold this.
For Dave and Angel Cottle. The road in a van.
The van is where it all started, and we couldn't have done it without this particular van.
They decided to move out of their Littleton apartment when they say living in the Denver metro became unaffordable for hourly workers.
I've always been a server or a bartender. My husband has always worked for irrigation companies and done sprinklers.
As rents increased in Colorado, we knew that our ability to save for the down payments or whatever it might take to get a mortgage, that was slipping just further and further away.
They turned a work van into their home and embraced a movement known as van life.
We had seen and watched YouTube videos on it, and we figured that we liked each other enough that we could live in a van together.
Like others across the country, they spent the day in parks and places near a bathroom with a shower when they were not at work.
You only have to find a place to be overnight, and that's kind of the hard part.
Dave and Angel found areas away from homes with hopes of going unnoticed.
We've had plenty of times where we were a little fearful, but whenever we don't feel safe, we go.
They go for security. They go for weather.
The winters are scary to try to live in a van in Denver.
Traumatizing.
If you have wheels under you, it's probably best to go to somewhere like Phoenix for the winter.
She's a 1984 Chevy G30. She's been around for a long time, but she's only got like 90-something thousand miles.
David Guajardo has been living with his girlfriend Lexi for 3 months.
We have a little shower that we built.
In a van they renovated themselves.
So this is our bed. It's a big one. It's California King. Pantry. Pop open this guy right here. We got a little DVD player right here. It's a nice little fan. Get some leaves and stuff caught in it sometimes. The bed folds up either way, that way. So we have like basically like 2 benches here and then a table in the middle.
Melanie Osh is living in an SUV with her boyfriend. They're all friends from Ohio who met up on the road in Colorado. With portable stoves to cook.
Just the outdoorsy type.
They're taking it slow after recently graduating from college.
We don't have rent to pay, which is really nice. So, I mean, that just saves a lot of money there. So I guess like, you know, earning money on the way and just being able to spend that money on what we want rather than spending that money on housing.
But as far as finding places, it's really not too difficult. There's so many free places, like free campsites and like BLM land. So it's been pretty easy to, you know, find somewhere as long as you're kind of away from the cities.
But sometimes trouble finds you.
Yeah, deer just kind of came out of nowhere and smacked the side of the car. We got really lucky though because nobody was hurt.
Van life has grown so much. It is depicted in the movie Nomadland, which won the Oscar for Best Picture this year.
You were one of those lucky people that can travel anywhere.
Yes, ma'am.
And they sometimes call you nomads.
Sharing a story of people just trying to find work and survive, supporting one another.
So it takes a lot of the stigma off of it, and I really appreciate that they were able to do that, because I tell anyone that wonders about how my wife and I have been living for the last few years, watch that movie.
But in the mountains near Hartzell, they are writing their own ending.
This year is really the first time that I felt like we weren't homeless. Van life is so akin to homelessness. It's a slippery slope that so many people end up homeless before they end up owning property and building a home.
Over 3 years, the van life helped them save up to $2,000 each month so they can buy land in a place where neighbors are few and far between.
We gave up on our dream of buying a house down the hill. You know, it just seemed like it was too much and it's too crowded, and we feel happy up here where we're at peace and we can build this. Everything is going to be done by us.
Not everything.
You're my love.
Dave and Angel are living wild and free.
This is like the best therapy ever.
Amongst kindred spirits. They are visited every day by free-range horses living on the land.
And they love to get that old hair off.
At the end of their long road, they went from van life to just life.
It can't get better than this.
With photojournalist Tom Cole.
Mama, that's not nice.
For Next at Night, I'm Nelson Garcia. Whole new perspective on our day-to-day. Dave and Angel Cottle are working on building a more permanent structure on that property. They're doing it by hand. You have some strong views about what you have seen and heard here tonight. You'll get the last word, as always, in feedback next. Chris Lawson writes in tonight to say that having incentives or bribes, as he calls them, to get people vaccinated is absolutely asinine. I guess my question would be, Chris, is it asinine if it meets its objective of getting people vaccinated, or is there an assumption that it won't work? Brian did not like the fact that I said tonight that people who are vaccinated are being told to wear masks to protect the unvaccinated. Not very objective, Brian wrote. Humans, by our very nature, are not objective. My goal is to be accurate, so I would ask you, is that accurate? See you at 9:30 tomorrow night.